Thank you for joining us today, and welcome back to WAMS Webinar Wednesdays. Kathleen Kvitek, WAMS Director of Training, and Matt Morris, Account Manager at WAMS, are joining us to discuss what phishing actually is, a comical tale of a phishing attack that Matt will be sharing with us, some common mistakes, best practices, and Kathleen will cover how to prevent attacks. If you're not too familiar with WAMS, I'll share a little bit about us. WAMS has been providing law firms and businesses with computer consulting and support services since '74. We continue our reputation for quality and service today by installing and proactively maintaining computer systems, as well as providing technology solutions for hundreds of law firms and businesses. If you have any questions, please send them to info@wamsinc.com. That's info@wamsinc.com. And we will address them in a timely manner after the presentation. So let's go ahead and get going. So let's just start off with the basics here. Simply, what is phishing? Phishing is a type of online identity theft. It uses email and fraudulent websites that are designed to steal your personal data or information such as credit card numbers, passwords, account data, or other information. So this is the most simple definition of phishing, but as many of you know, phishing is anything but simple. So what exactly does phishing look like? It basically looks like legitimate email addresses and websites. These emails and sites can fool the best of us when they have been done well. They will always want information on you or your workplace, or they're always requesting some sort of information to victimize and exploit you. And if you look closely, something is always slightly off. So we'll see some more examples later, but the biggest issue is simply knowing what to look for. So this is one that I actually just found online, and we point out some of the biggest key things to look for. So we can clearly see that while it says Amazon as the name, when we look at the actual email address, the A is missing in Amazon. And so it looks like it might be kind of close, but it's off. And it really is that simple of a mistake to make. Second, the generic non-personalized greeting is always a dead giveaway as well, because especially with a company like Amazon, it will always say your name. It will always be highly personalized. And most importantly, hovering over the link actually reveals that it points to a non-Amazon site. So you're being redirected. And now, speaking of knowing what to look for, our very own Matt Morris experienced a quite comical phishing attack not too long ago. And you absolutely heard me correctly. Even though we utilize Mimecast email filtering, an attack was good enough to get through, and this does happen. This is why security training is your best form of protection. So, Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened here?
Sounds good. Thanks for having me here, guys. So I told the story around the office a few times. Everybody laughed at me. They thought it'd be a good idea that I tell everybody here. So here we go. I was contacted by someone back in October, as you can see there. Chris Williams, he's the owner of WAMS. Rarely here, usually brought in for consultative purposes. I have dealt with Chris a few times, but not too many times. Usually when it comes to IMAN, things like that. But he never reaches out to me directly. So this was a shock to get it from him. Of course, I looked at the sender when it came over because I just don't receive anything from him. Saw that it was looks like someone just ran their fingers across the keyboard there at AOL.com. Knew that it was a joke at this point, and then obviously reading the part below. Hi, Matt. I am planning a surprise for some of the staffs with gifts. I need you to get a purchase done. Email me once you get this. Regards, Chris Williams. Now, it's funny because obviously not the best grammar, but you never know. This could be, if this was just your typical person in the office looking at something that came over, they may be very busy seeing something that's been garbled up a little bit. It could be because they were speaking into their smartphone. The software caught it. It didn't catch everything or regurgitated it in this way. So there could be a number of reasons why there's misspellings, things like that. But obviously, I saw this come over. Like I said, I don't talk to Chris, and I automatically knew that it was fishy. So against most, no pun intended there, but against the better judgment of everything, I decided to engage this person because, one, it was a slow day, and two, I know these guys get away with murder out there, and so I wanted to waste this person's time because they like to waste everybody else's time and steal from people. So I did engage this individual. Let's see, what was my next one? Hey, Chris, what is the budget? Are you going to be in this office today or in the LA office? Now, we don't have an LA office, but I was just trying to get this guy to spew out as many lies as he had. To see, I mean, I didn't know where I was going to go with this, but I knew I was going to call this person out. It was going to be funny to me and maybe potentially tick this person off or maybe deter them from stealing from someone else that day, because there wasn't any way that I was going to accept a download or anything like that. I was making sure that I was looking for things coming over and that I wouldn't allow anything into my network. But the response, absolutely. What do you want me to do? Get gifts. The person responded to this. Why are you questioning my authority, Matt? Will you just go and do what I asked you to do right away? So this person is obviously less stable. I don't know. But bottom line is they're incredibly unstable. So just thought I'd push that along a little bit further. Let's see. Yes, I'm having a busy day, and I'm looking forward to surprise some of the staffs with gift cards today. I need 10 pieces of Amazon gift card, $400 face value each, and 5 pieces of iTunes, $100 face value each gift card. Now, who talks about gift cards as pieces? That's just another red flag to point out that this person may not be, on the up and up. I need you to get the physical card, then you can scratch the card, take a picture of the card pin, attach the email to me. How soon can you get this done? Right away, ? So obviously wanting to push things along, wanting me to get this over to them, not wanting there to be a lot of time for me to possibly talk to somebody and realize that this was a con, but I already knew that from the beginning, so we're just dragging it out here. What do we have? What's the next one? Sorry for the delay, Chris. I have the cards. Are you sure I should scratch the pins before you give these cards away? Should I put them in envelopes and give them away? Are one of these for me? If so, can I have the Amazon card since it's worth so much? Let's see, you really took long to get back to me. Obviously, it was later in the day. There were things that come up over here, so I did get busy. But fortunately, this person was willing to engage me afterwards. Let's see, you really took so long to get back to me. Scratch them, attach and send to me here in the email. One of the iTunes is for you, and I will send the rest in an attachment to the other staffs and the people I want to give. So this person was willing to give me one of the iTunes cards, which was flattering, but that was the cheaper of the cards. So anyway, towards the end of the day, as you can see up at the top, at 4:59 p.m., I clock out at 5. I gave the final email, and as you can tell, I am an amazing artist in my spare time. I went ahead and drew a beautiful Amazon card. Let's see, a holiday card down there. As you can see, I misspelled holiday at Hadalay since we were in the misspelling theme between the emails back and forth. And then the final $1 million iTunes card. See, I played the trick on him. He said I could have an iTunes card because he thought they were only $100. He didn't know that I got $1 million iTunes card. So I went ahead and gave that one to me. I wrote at the top, I'm so happy that you are giving me the iTunes card because it is the one with $1 million on it, smiley face. Thank you, Chris. The other staffs will be so happy with their gifts. Just a sweet guy. I didn't get a response from this. I was hoping for one. I guess I must have made him mad or something. Never got a response from this person. I think about him often.
Thanks, Matt. So, humor aside, let's talk about how this went. First of all, let's go ahead and cover what he did right. He recognized the telltale signs. He knew that it was coming from a funny address, and he noticed the irregular grammar coming from Chris, as well as the fact that Chris is not one to email us very often. He did not make the purchase. He did not consider it an urgent issue. He did not share any additional information and did not forward this to anyone. Now for what he did wrong. Top recommendation from our engineers is that you should permanently delete any email, phishing email, malicious looking email, suspicious email right away. It's important to know that when you choose to reply and engage with these attackers, replying is confirming. So now they know that it is a valid email address and makes you a hot lead. Now, granted, Matt was smart enough not to enter any other personal sensitive information. There were no links involved where he was clicking and entering a password into anything. But just by replying and confirming our email format, he is not only putting others at risk, but he is also making himself a hot lead because they're going to try to use his email for other things now. And so just a few more common mistakes addressed and some do's and don'ts when you have received a questionable email. Do not ever reply to the email. As we stated, replying opens the floodgates and confirms the hit. Don't forward the email. Never share the email with anyone else. You may not click through, but if there's a malicious link in there, they might. And of course, never ever click through or open any links. With Mimecast, fortunately, you won't even be allowed to. But for those of you who don't have any sort of email filtering, it is vital to know to never open any links. And you have that great protection, especially in Outlook. You can scroll over a link and see where the link is actually supposed to take you. And so the way Mimecast works is if you were to try to click on that, it will not open it up. It will let you know that it's a malicious link, and it will force you back to safety, which is a great way to police yourself. And again, to reiterate, do not share any information with the sender. It is the worst way that you can react. And also, do not do anything that they ask of you. Do not click anything, buy anything, call any phone numbers shared. It's just, again, opening those doors. So now, things that you should focus on and be doing. Instantly, permanently delete the email. I cannot stress this enough. This is the most important thing to do because you never know what could even be hidden in that email, whited out links, things like that. We recommend also blocking the email address. If you don't reply, it's not likely that they're going to try again, but you just don't want to deal with it. And it's just an extra step to make things easier on yourself. Now, if it does seem like there is a chance that this email could be legitimate, like let's say it was a better formulated email address and a better written message, delete the email right away and call the alleged sender. Because if there is anything that they need to do, one of our engineers has actually said this, if it's important, they can forward you the email again. If it's legitimate, that will be no problem. 9 times out of 10, it isn't. And that's why calling to confirming is kind of like another level of authentication for you as well. And we cannot stress these enough. If you haven't already, get security training, update your security training every so often. There are always new attacks out there, always new things that you should be aware of. And it's always better to be safe than sorry. You can never be too careful. Another recommendation that we have here that is a great do in dealing with your emails is to leverage some sort of email filtering like Mimecast, which Kathleen will touch on a little bit more later here. So now Kathleen Kvitek, WAMS Director of Training, is going to walk us through some best practices in response to attempted phishing attacks.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Before I give you some specific tips, I would like to remind you that our webinars are just the tip of the iceberg as far as what we can offer you and your firm in terms of training. I know we keep mentioning training and awareness, but cannot stress enough how important it is to make everybody in your firm aware and trained on security. If everyone is trained and you have just one person who's not, that one person could let something slip through. Many of our clients have already leveraged our security training, and we just want to let you know that we work closely with our engineers to develop the training, to include information that's new and relevant, and we meet regularly to update our information and to get best practices when it comes to security. So in one of our recent security meetings, here are a couple of quotes from our own WAMS engineers. First off, Security is a mindset. And what I would like to add to that is that security should be and will be a way of life. There will come a time very soon where you cannot really get away with not thinking about it. One of the things that comes to mind when I think of security outside of our office environment is whether or not I should use my ATM card when purchasing gas and putting in my PIN code. I'm sure you're hearing things like this in the news, that maybe it's better for you to go inside to pay or to pay with cash. So this is what I think, our engineer meant when security is a mindset. We have to start orienting ourselves in many aspects of our lives, more so than ever before. Okay, another quote, big one here to talk about. Security and password protection is time consuming, but not nearly as time consuming as dealing with being hacked. And not too much else needs to be said about that. If you've ever been hacked or you've ever had any identification theft in any way, shape, or form, you probably know how time consuming and frustrating that can be. So yes, it takes some time to start working out how to secure yourself and your passwords, but you'll in the end be much happier with the time that you spent protecting yourself than if you actually were to get hacked. Another quote here, which is a good one to keep in mind: if you suspect you've been hacked, change your password immediately. And the operative word here is immediately. You should take action immediately. Whatever is the appropriate action, whoever you are in whatever capacity you are at your firm or your office. If it's a personal email address, change your password. Do you need to alert your IT person or your office manager or your other partners? So whatever the case may be, whatever is appropriate, do it immediately. Don't sit on it and don't wait, because whatever's happening behind the scenes is going to continue to happen. If your password has been stolen, or you think you've been hacked, or you've clicked on a malicious, or even suspect you clicked on a malicious link, you want to do something about it immediately. Okay, so again, I know we're kind of covering some things that we've talked about already today. We also talked about this in our previous security webinar, but these things are happening daily. And we have just been informed of a client today that had a scam email come through, and one of their attorneys fell for it and purchased some gift cards similar to what was being asked of Matt in the emails back in October. So, we laughed about it and maybe thought, Matt handled it in, in a humorous way, but we learned what he really shouldn't have responded. But what we want to inform you is that, if you're busy and you're not paying attention and you get an email from somebody who's high up in your organization that you're not used to hearing from, you might very well just respond very quickly and do what was asked, just because you're trying to provide your best work for the firm. So this picture right here is actually an email that recently came to one of our clients. The person who it says it was from was being impersonated, and it was the main named partner at the firm, sent to one of the staff members. And all it says is, can you respond? Now, replying to this email, it didn't ask them to provide any, gift cards or anything like that, but just replying to the email, as Ashley pointed out previously, it alerts the person on the other end, or whoever it is, the suspicious or malicious person on the other end, that this is a legitimate email and that there is somebody on the other end to respond, and then they might start phishing or looking for information from that person. So what the important thing to note here is, even though it said it was from this particular person, you want to pay attention to the actual email address following the person's name. And so you can see here it says legal assisting. There's a typo there, not even assistance. And, that's kind of a note there that anytime you see something that looks wrong, just follow your instincts. Okay, so we talked about this also in the last webinar, but I just want to point out again, because this is another really good example of how to be aware of and be careful of suspicious links found in emails. So this email, which we're going to zoom in here a little bit, is from FedEx, and it's actually not too bad of an email. The FedEx logo looks pretty clean. The text, although it's covered, was pretty clear and didn't have typos. There's a green bar in the middle of the email message that says this is from a trusted sender. Now that did not come from Outlook, but it kind of looks Outlook-ish, like it could have been something that maybe you got from Outlook. That was something that whoever sent this email included in there. And then at the bottom of the email, this is the key thing to note here of how to know whether you're clicking a link that's legitimate. When you hover over a link to an attachment or a link that might take you to a website or some other location, if you hover over it with the mouse without clicking, you'll get a pop-up that will let you know where it's going to take you. So in this instance, it wasn't going to take us to a website. It was going to take us and send out a bunch of emails, or an email response to a bunch of these different emails that are listed. So it's something's not right here, and that's really the main point, is don't click it, recognize it, and if you have any questions about who an email is really legitimately from, give that person a call. And then if we look at the top of this email address, just to kind of reiterate one final time, you can see something's way wrong with this email. It says it's from FedEx, but in the brackets, or in the carets rather, the email address from FedEx is just a bunch of junk numbers and letters. You wouldn't be receiving an email like that. So, and same with the to who this is actually addressed to. So those are major red flags, and you obviously want to just delete this email immediately. Don't click on anything or respond. And if you need to alert your IT person or office manager, or let people know in the office that there's a scam going around, don't forward this email. You can send a separate email and just say beware of a FedEx scam or something like that if you want to try to share information with other users at your firm. Okay, so a couple tips here on password safety, and I just want to share two simple rules. When you're creating a password, you want to make sure it's a complex password. You don't want to use your first name or your dog's name or something like that. You want to make it much more complex than that. And rule number one, the most important rule, which we're going to spend a little bit of time contemplating here. Do not use the same password for multiple websites. All right, why not? Why shouldn't we use the same password? Everyone always says it's hard to remember all those passwords. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, what will a hacker do if they get one of your passwords, or they get your one and only password that you use over and over again for various websites and things that you log into? Well, as soon as a hacker obtains a password, they're going to try to start logging into other sites out there with that password. So if you spend a minute right now and you think about all the websites that you actually log into, banks, other financial institutions, Amazon, and many other websites that you might shop on, Facebook and other social media, if you've used the same password over and over again, just spend a minute imagining what a hacker could do with your one and only password. They could get everything if you use the same password. And I think the key here is that we hear this, don't use the same password. You may have heard that from your IT person, but maybe you've never really thought about what that means and why you shouldn't use the same password. Okay, fine, whatever. But did you really think about, or did you really actually know what's happening behind the scenes if you're using the same password? And now when you really think about it, hopefully everyone will start changing their passwords if you have used the same one over and over again. And we're all guilty of it, because we started doing this many years ago. But on a going forward basis, you want to start changing those passwords. So let's talk now about strong passwords. So the current password industry protocol or standard is that your password should include a mix of uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. And in addition, you want to consider having those passwords include a minimum of 12 to 16 characters. So that can get crazy as well and even hard to remember. What words do we have in the English language that are 12, 16 or more characters? So with that in mind, there is a new trend in the security world, and instead of using passwords, they're now suggesting that we use passphrase. So that's a word you're going to start hearing more and more when it comes to personal security, using a passphrase. So I've come up with an example. You might recognize the line, "Here comes the sun," from a Beatles song. So I take the words, "Here comes the sun," as a phrase. And if you look below it, I've substituted out the asterisks for the letter E. I've used the mix of upper and lower case letters. It may not be obvious, but I substituted the O in comes with a capital, or excuse me, not a capital letter, but that's actually a 0. The $ is mixed in there, and some other characters. I added the $ at the end and the exclamation points. So you can come up with your own idea of phrases and characters to substitute and when to use uppercase and lowercase. But if you come up with phrases that mean something to you and think about your pattern for creating passwords, but you don't do the same passphrase for all of your websites, it'll help you keep track of them, but it won't make it easy for a hacker to get into your password pattern and start checking out what other websites you might belong to and then get to your personal information or buy things in your name. So that is an important tip. Now, another important tip coming straight from one of our WAMS engineers is, quote, "Get a password manager." Now, I talked about this also in our last seminar, but I want to mention it again because it's very important. We're asking you, and the industry is asking you, to vary your passwords and make them longer and more complex. You're going to want to have some way of securely managing those passwords. Writing them down on a piece of paper or keeping them in your notes in your iPhone is not a safe way for you to manage those passwords. There's various ways that those passwords can be taken from you or found out by somebody. So we really recommend that you do your own research because not every password manager will work for every person. There are many of them out there. And if you want to do some research, then probably the best place to start is to just do an internet search for 2019 password managers. If you just type that in, just do a Google search and type in 2019 password managers, you'll get an article. The one that I referenced last time and the one that I found to be very helpful is a PC Magazine article, and it's the top 10 password managers of 2019. And they give you a really good idea of what to expect from each of the different ones out there of those top 10 that they reviewed. Engineers here at WAMS utilize Dashlane and LastPass. Those are two that were mentioned in the PC Magazine article, and then another password manager that some of our engineers use, and it's been around for many years, but it wasn't listed in the article, is KeePass. So there's just so many out there, and really the important thing is pick one and stick with it and find the one that works best for you. Okay, so how can you help? Now, I know we've mentioned this multiple times today, but we just can't reiterate it enough. You can help yourself and your organization by getting or providing training for your firm and your employees and helping everybody to be overall very aware. just another kind of quote here that comes from our Director of Consulting Services, Brent. He's the one who provided the examples to me earlier of the email address that came in from the named partner or the fake named partner earlier. And he said that, you know, it came to one of the staff members at the law firm, and she immediately recognized that there was something suspicious about it. He said of this firm, this overall firm is good at recognizing suspicious and malicious emails. It all comes down to training and awareness. So this is possible for you and your organization as well, and you know, we can be of assistance with that if you need any further training. And then lastly, I just want to mention again, we keep saying, I'm talking about Mimecast. Mimecast is an email security application that integrates with Outlook, and it provides you with spam protection. It allows you to see emails that have been blocked or have been placed on hold, and it's very easy to use. This is the application that WAMS provides to our clients, and it's also the one that WAMS uses internally as well. Although we have shared with you a couple of examples of some emails that have gotten through either to ourselves or to our clients, the truth of the matter is very, very few emails with malicious links or spam actually gets through into the inbox. And I really had to dig around quite a bit, as did Ashley, to get some screenshots and examples, because the Mimecast email security is so strong. Of course, nothing is foolproof. We said that in our last seminar as well, but we really do recommend some type of email security, and Mimecast is a good one out there. So that concludes my tips for today, and we really appreciate you attending our webinar.
Thanks so much, Kathleen. Once again, if you have any questions about the tips discussed today, please email info@wamsinc.com and we will be happy to assist. Now, if this was helpful, but you'd like to dive a little deeper, or maybe you need some education and training on other applications, WAMS can help. Kathleen provides trainings both remotely or in-house. These can be group sessions or one-on-one. We offer total customization, and she can train you on just some general software, legal software, custom macro packages, Microsoft Office, document management systems, and last but not least, security training. So go ahead and email info@wamsinc.com to learn more. Now, if any of you are curious about what else WAMS can do to make your IT solution the best it can be, we offer managed services, cloud services, projects and consulting, security auditing and implementation, disaster recovery, and of course, training. We can be reached at 800-421-7151, and you can learn more by logging on to wamsinc.com. We thank you again for joining us today. Be sure to join us next month on Wednesday, March 27, for a webinar diving a little deeper into internal security. So keep an eye out for that invite, because it will be in your inbox shortly.